we check out the turbo petrol variant of the 6th generation Hyundai Verna and take a ride in the Vadodara-based e-scooter Mi-Horse ahead of its launch. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Soini Dutt. Hyundai India had been teasing the 6th generation sleek-looking Verna for a while now, and we've finally taken a look at this car to find out whether the hype was all worth it. It also is a more safer sedan than before.
The last year or so has seen quite a bit of action in the mid-size sedan segment. Skoda and Volkswagen have stirred up the segment with the launch of the Slavia and the Virtus. Honda has silently kept the segment going with the no-nonsense City. And the Hyundai Verna, it's always been the flashy kid of the party. And now it's here in an all-new avatar. The Verna has always looked the most radical car in its segment, like it or not, and the new one follows in that tradition. The turbo variant can be identified with the obvious badges, of course, but you also get an additional vent below the bonnet, a black cabin and matching black wheels as well. You get all 4 disc brakes too, but for some reason only the front brake calipers are red. Irrespective of the variant, the new Verna looks futuristic and still has some retro cues dialed in its styling. The Hyundai Staria-inspired light bar at the front reminds me of Kit from Knight Rider. That said, when you look at the complexity of the rear with those beautiful low-set parametric taillights, or the origami-like creases on the side profile with the large wheels and broad tires filling up the wheel arches so nicely, the front end does look a bit off. The new Verna uses a completely new platform, says Hyundai. That said, the nose, it looks sharply raked, very much like a hatchback, and I think that is where the front end proportions look a bit ungainly. The sharper nose gives it a marginally better aerodynamic efficiency of 0.30 CD versus the outgoing model's 0.31 CD. And to that effect, even the Hyundai logo now moves from the grille to the top of the bonnet. It sits flush and it's also wafer thin. This is also the lowest position I've ever seen for a headlamp on a sedan. It's quite low, and I think a lot of oncoming traffic, other road users are going to appreciate this position because it's likely to not dazzle them the way SUVs and crossovers do. And to that effect, this car also gets an auto high beam assist, which essentially will automatically switch to lower beams the moment it detects oncoming traffic. This is a part of the level 2 ADAS functions that the new Verna comes with. But unlike the Honda City's sensing ADAS technology, which only uses a camera, this one has a camera and a radar system. Over-engineered for safety? Well, I think it was high time. To that effect, the new Verna chassis uses 30% high-strength steels and 42% advanced high-strength steels. And new 3D and infrared scanning techniques are used to ensure that the body and the chassis are devoid of any imperfections. The chassis also has thicker members in the floor and around the central sections of the passenger cell. The Verna standard safety features now include 6 airbags, disc brakes on all wheels for the turbo variant, electronic stability control, vehicle stability management, hill assist control, and a high-line tire pressure monitoring system. And you also get plenty more boot space. At 528 litres, it is more spacious than the Slavia or the Virtus's boot, and has a low loading lip and a wider aperture. I think of all the cars that you have in the segment, the Verna definitely feels the most premium in terms of not just the layout, but also in terms of the design, also in terms of the materials used. Now, you do get soft touch materials in some of the areas, some of the common touch points. You also get this stitching, something that will help it take on the cabin of the Honda City. You get a 10.25-inch infotainment screen, and in typical Hyundai manner, it is very slick to operate, very easy to operate, very intuitive in terms of its layout as well. What you get here is another 10.25-inch layout. What you get are 2 displays, one for the speedometer, one for the tachometer, and then you get one central MID, a full color MID again, that gives you all the other additional information that you need. Now, people are going to be on the fence about this particular panel. Now, what I think about it is, this panel essentially lets you toggle using this switch between the AC controls and the infotainment controls. Compared to the other Hyundai cars, all the infotainment switches are now a part of this panel. It's a touch panel, and because you can toggle between the two, it sort of reduced the switchgear clutter, which I think is very good news. Ventilated seats has always been the Verna's thing, Now Hyundai's upped the game a little bit more. They've also given you heated function for the seating, especially today in this weather. It has actually come in handy. You get 3 levels of adjustment for both, and that I think is a good feature to have. You get a wireless charging pad, but you still do not get wireless Apple CarPlay or wireless Android Auto. You still have to run a cable for it. But all new age phones are now using a USB-C connection. But if you were to connect using the USB-C port here, the Apple CarPlay doesn't work. You still need the older USB-A port, which in today's times, I don't know why they've still done that. Another thing that Hyundai used to do with all their cabins and which we really liked was the air purification system. Even the sub 4 meter Venue gets it, but the new Verna doesn't. The Verna now enjoys the longest wheelbase in the category, more than even the Honda City, which up until now was the roomiest car in the segment. Look at the kind of knee room that I get. The foot space is brilliant too. Even the headroom is quite nice despite the receding fastback coupe-ish like roofline. So what they've done is actually scooped out more space here so that even 6-footers can get a decent amount of headroom. However, for that they've also sort of reclined the seat a little bit more, and that is why you usually sit in a more relaxed manner, and that is how you get a slightly more headroom as well. It's also the widest car in the segment, making for increased shoulder room. But with only 2 headrests, this seat is safe only for 2 adults and a kid. I even had a chance to be driven around for some time, and the rear seat comfort seems good for long distance journeys. What needs improvement though is the noise insulation of the cabin. It curbs the powertrain noises quite well, but noises from the road, tires and the debris are heard loud and clear, more so at the rear, just like the Honda City.
There's a lot more to talk about the new generation Hyundai Verna. It now comes with 2 engine options and also gets level 2 ADAS features. We'll talk more about that after this very short break.